Hello and welcome to Beamer, folks. I'd like to take you back on a journey 60 years ago, quite a distance in time, when I was about 6 or 7, and this was the late 50s, about 1958. Within our home, we had, my parents had this is distant memory to me, of course, had a valve radio, a black and white television, valve driven again, maybe a couple of transistor radios. And to me, a radio seemed rather magical. I thought originally that there were little people in the boxes of the radios and televisions that presented and talked. And and that sort of initiated my fascination. Of course, with curiosity and my dad bringing home an old beat up valve radio or transistor radio, I kind of took it apart. And, to my amazement, there weren't actually people in the radio. It was all done by a remarkable thing called electronics. Now, there was certainly no logic gate driven appliances in our home. I certainly had no knowledge of these, and those sort of devices were incorporated in what we would think of today as fairly primitive computers, and they were the province, the domain of large corporations. Certainly a normal consumer, a young lad at the age of 6 or 7, had really no notion whatsoever of a computer. I kind of suffered a lot of illness as a youngster, so I had a lot of time, I was able to spend a lot of time thinking about electronics. And on one of my visits to a local library, I'd pulled out a book that effectively, in a basic way, described logic principles, and it offered a demonstration. Incidentally, this book I've kind of searched for and I can't seem to find. It's probably gone out of print, and I couldn't certainly find it in Google, but it presented in a basic way a demonstration which I'm hoping to repeat here, although I can't remember the exact details, and I'm sure my presentation is not quite the same. But nevertheless, of course, bearing in mind that there wasn't CMOS logic around, there were certainly no CPUs or microcontrollers or anything like that. There weren't DTL logic systems, there weren't even diode logic systems, not certainly that a member of the public would have an understanding. There were certainly analog computers, but this is all the domain of professional, industrial orientated computer, albeit primitive computer systems. Certainly not an understanding that I had. But anyway, I came across this book with a presentation, and I'm hoping to repeat that today anyway. So what I do initially, I just go through the components as to how this was built. I'm using, as you probably gathered by now, I do like to use a used takeaway box, and that's what I'm going to use here. Used takeaway box. All I did was with methylated spirits, just clean off the surface to make sure it's degreased. Move that to one side. Little battery pack. What have we got there? 4.5 volts battery pack, but you could use any battery source really. The other components, and wait for it, here they are. One box of metal paper clips and another box of thumbnails or drawing pins. Some people call it drawing pins, others call it thumbnails, but that's those. Let's move those to one side. I've got in here a resistor and LED, and of course originally that would have been no resistor and a bicycle lamp. And what else have we got? A little bit of tape there and some wiring of different different colours, and that's about it. Oh, and I'd forgotten to include a couple of crocodile clip leads, one black and one red. What I've got to do now is tape over the surface of the takeaway box, and I'll do that off screen because it'll probably take a couple of moments, and a bit boring watching somebody tape over a takeaway box, isn't it? So I'll do that now. These are the tools needed for this project. The stripping of wires, you can use a knife and a pair of cutters, but I actually prefer, and I realise this is not something that everybody's got, but this is what I actually prefer to use. It doesn't strain the wire so much and it's easier to use, but not everybody's got that. Basically all you've got is a ruler, pencil, pair of cutters, flat pair of pliers and a round nose pair of pliers, and that's all you need. No drilling, no drills, no soldering iron. All I've done here is to horizontally with paper tape, sticky paper tape, tape over one way, and then with the same sticky tape taped over vertically to strengthen up the surface of this plastic. Next I'll be putting a centre pencil line down through the box to start the marking up. Okay, I've just done that. I've put a vertical line through the centre of the box. It's about 3 inches either side, and what I intend to do now is put in effectively 3 drawing pins, thumbnails, into a position like that. If you're a youngster doing this, it's probably important to say that drawing pins are sharp, and it's probably best to see if you can tempt your brother or your sister or mum and dad or uncle, auntie, whatever, to do this for you. But if you're happy to be around drawing pins and use them, by all means use them, but just be mindful that they are sharp and they can prick. Well, there we have it. I managed to quite easily push these pins in, but they take a little bit of pressure to do that, and it's important that the plastic and the paper tape grip the centre shaft of the pin to make sure that the pins cannot be pulled out easily. And what I intend to do now is put a resistor in there, an LED there, and that's what I do next. What I've done here is put the resistor between the 2 top pins and put the LED, which is the blue LED, between the 2 lower pins. I've bent the leads on the LED, as you can see, apart, giving the maximum length of the lead, because you want a little bit of length here to pick up these 2 pins, and of course bend them at the end so that they're captured by the pins themselves. With the resistor, I've done similar. I've bridged between those 2 pins, the resistor, and bent the leads round here. The resistor value is 1K, and the LED is a blue LED, and I think it's a little 3mm LED, quite high bright, with the anode nearest pointing towards the centre pin and the cathode on this pin here. Okay, I've just marked up the box, but before I show you that, I thought we would just test the LED and the resistor. I'm pretty sure it's working, but what I've done, I've connected up the crock leads to into the battery, and I'll just flash the LED to make sure all is fine. So I've got the negative through to the cathode of the LED, and I've got the positive to the other side of the resistor. So let's see that that works, and there we are. Nice indicating LED. Okay, now to the, move that to one side and make sure it's not shorting out, and I'll just go over what I've done here with the marking up. I'll try and zoom in a little bit more, wrong direction, try that. Okay, in the marking up, you've got effectively 4 triangles drawn in here. From the centre line, the vertical centre line, which was about 3 inches either side of the vertical line, you've got a marking here of 1 inch to the right hand side, 1 inch to the left hand side, then draw a vertical line down, draw a vertical line down. Excuse me. Beyond that, go for another 3/4 of an inch to there on the right hand side, 3/4 of an inch there to the left hand side, and then draw another vertical line down. Right, the next thing you do is on the outer lines, draw down to a point here of 1 inch on the vertical outside vertical left hand side line, and the same on the right hand side. That's 1 inch from the top. And you do likewise down here, 1 inch from here to there, 1 inch from there to there. Then the next thing I did was to, on the second to far left hand line, vertical line, I did 3/4 of an inch up, made a mark, 1/2 an inch up, made a mark, 3/4 of an inch up, made a mark, 3/4 of an inch down, made a mark, 1/2 inch down, made a mark, 3/4 of an inch down, make a mark, 1/2 inch down, make a mark. And that's that. The next thing for me to do is to put pins where I've circled those triangles. So I'm going to now put drawing pins, 3 of them in there, 3 of them in there, 3 of them in there, and 3 of them in there. And I shall go away and do that.
This is Beamer signing out for now.